Hello, loved ones. I'm Chris Keaton, and welcome to my podcast, Random Acts. Oh, yeah. Hey, I hope you're doing well. You know, here we are in the middle of the summer, and it's getting a little warm here in Virginia. It's warm in Tennessee. In fact, it's been hot as hell in both places. But anyway, we'll leave that for another day. So I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're continuing to tune into my podcast. Please don't forget to tell all your friends about it. Tell everybody that you love about it, and even tell somebody that you don't like about how good the podcast is, or how you don't even have to tell them how good it is. Just tell them that they ought to listen to it. So anyway, typically I like to start off with 5 things, either 5 things that I think are funny or 5 things that I just want to blab about. But today, because of my guest who's coming on in just a few minutes, I want to talk about 5 albums that really meant a lot to me. Now, these are only the 5 that I thought about this morning because every day it changes. And as my wife Gina can attest, being in the car with me is the worst thing ever because I'm always looking for something new to listen to. And I listen to all kinds of things. But here are 5 albums that really rocked my world and continue to. Number 1, Meet the Beatles. I mean, I remember when they came on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964, February 9th, 1964, as a matter of fact. And that record continues to change my life. The songwriting, the production on the album, just the whole thing, the way that they looked, the way that they sounded, it's just been an amazing thing. Number 2, I Got You, I Feel Good by James Brown. Now, here's the thing. James Brown was the godfather of soul, no question. I mean, he was the man. But Maceo Parker, his sax player, had a solo in the song I Got You. And it was the first sax solo I ever learned. So that album's got to be a big one for me, too. Third one I would mention would be Blondes Have More Fun by Rod Stewart. First off, Sir Rod just had his 80th birthday, just played at Glastonbury, and the fact that he still gets out there and plays at 80 years old, I just think is marvelous. In fact, he's part of the inspiration that Gina and I were having the conversation, and she said, you know, you really ought to play in a rock and roll band again, just like you did when we first got together. And I was like, well, yeah, it'd be kind of fun. And then we continue to ramp ourselves up about it and talk about it, and I figured out this. What the world needs more than anything else right now is another 69-year-old rock star, and I'm applying for the job. So I'm auditioning, and I've put myself a band together. It's called Chris Keaton and the Millennials because they're all like 30 years younger than me. But anyway, we're having the time of our lives, and thank you, Rod Stewart, for giving me that inspiration. Okay, another album I really love is Aja, A-J-A, by Steely Dan. Just because they were able to mix rock and roll, pop, jazz music together. I mean, they could kind of put it all together. It was really great. And another one that I really loved is Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith, because here's an American rock and roll band who drew from the English rock and roll bands, who, of course, drew from the American blues artists. So it was this kind of this cool circle. And it also leads me into the fact that my guest today is Jay Messina. Jay is a Grammy-nominated, world-class recording engineer. He's worked with Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, John Lennon, Miles Davis. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but, well, I will go on and on because I do like to name drop, but he's worked with jazz artists, pop artists, country artists. He even did a couple records with Alabama. It's crazy stuff, but I mean, this guy's like so world class, and I really think that you'll enjoy the interview in a few minutes. But the bottom line to it is there's always like a through line. All of us are storytellers, and we all have a story to tell. We have a part to play in other people's stories as well. So that's why I do my podcast, and I hope that you're enjoying it. Now, in just a moment, we're going to have my guest, Jay Messina. So hang on.
If the chemistry is flowing, we'll give it fire.
All right, friends and neighbors, I promised you something really good today, and it really is something great. I want you to meet my friend, an amazing engineer, an amazing human being. He's got more Grammys than he can possibly count. In fact, he told me a few minutes ago he may have to move because he's got so many. No, I'm kidding. But he's a great engineer and an even greater guy. Jay Messina. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris. Great to be here.
Man, it's great to see you after all these years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. So you and I met 15 years ago at Bill Aucoin's wake. Bill
Wow.
Aucoin.
Is it that long?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
for the uninitiated, Bill Aucoin was Kiss's manager, Billy Idol's manager, Billy Squire's manager. Oh, he's going to kill me for that, but that's okay. But he was like a larger than life person, right, Bill?
He was a great manager, person, and all around good guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Miss him.
Hey, I
We
miss him quite a lot. So tell me, so first off, you have worked with, among others, Aerosmith, Cheap Trick, Kiss, the list goes on and on. John Lennon, the list goes on and on. Can you tell me just, drop a few names?
Also in other genres, like Eddie Palmieri,
Yes.
big salsa personality. Miles Davis,
Mm-hmm.
you've heard of him. So I've done lots of jazz records and rock and roll and different styles of rock and roll. Not all just hard driving rock and roll, but kind of sophisticated rock and roll. Supertramp,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
a band called White Elephant that had all of the local session guys in it. The Brecker brothers were in
Oh,
it.
wow.
Steve Gadd and Tony Levin. And so, I've been lucky enough to work with lots of great people from all genres of music.
Yeah. So when you first got into the business and started working in studios, were you just kind of amazed by the magic that would happen in those rooms? I mean, when you get musicians together and shit just happens.
Well, how it started for me was I was hanging with a friend of mine, David Lucas, on a Sunday night, and I was all set because I have a little electronics background, so I was all set to start a job the next, Monday morning at a company that made test equipment, and my job was going to be kind of a dry quality control, check every third meter that they made to make sure it worked. And so the night before, David Lucas, we were hanging out, and he was an engineer, but he was also a music writer. And he worked for his cousin, Don Elliott. Don Elliott was a kind of a famous jazz musician that he played with George Shearing to go back a ways. But he also worked with Quincy Jones, lots of people. He was a super talented guy. Anyway, David was looking to free up some time from his engineering duties for Don at his studio so he could write some more music, mostly jingles. So that Sunday night, he asked me if I wanted to be an engineer. I said, what's that? I said, I have a job. I'm starting tomorrow. He said, quit. He says, I can only give you $25 a week for food. He says, but you'll have a good time. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I trusted my gut and my friend and did it. But so to answer your question, when I walked in the studio for the first time, that next day probably, Don had Les Paul's 1-inch 8-track machine. And this is maybe 1965.
Wow.
So multi-track back then was like 3-track or
Right.
4-track.
Yeah.
Not too. There was only 5 8-track machines in the world, and Don had one of them. I think Atlantic had 2, and there were 2 others someplace. So it was a big eye opener to me just to walk in the room and see that monster machine.
Yeah.
I had never seen that before. I had a little electronics background, but not specifically geared towards recording. So if that answers your
No, it totally does. But and to go from there to like working with Miles Davis, I mean, I can only imagine what that was like, because, I mean, he was quite eccentric, I understand.
Oh yeah, but I had a good intro to him because we had a mutual friend who was a interior designer who was doing Miles's apartment, who only lived just 2 blocks away from where I lived,
Uh-huh.
and still live. So I had that introduction, and the other thing I had going for me is when I first met Miles in the studio, when I used to go to Japan for work mostly, I would bring back these little sneakers called Cougars.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the musicians would bring them back because they were very comfortable, very cheap, and they were really comfortable to have on in the studio. So when I met Miles, he saw my sneakers. He says, "Oh, nice sneakers, man. Where'd you get them?" So I said, "Well, they're Cougars. You can only get them in Japan." I said, "What size do you wear?" And when I used to go to Japan, I would bring back maybe half a dozen of these sneakers in
Uh-huh.
my size. And then I would bring back 2 of other sizes, and I would give them to my friends. So I figured I would have his size. So when I asked him what size he wore, it was my size. So I said, I'll bring you a pair tomorrow. I just told him you could only get them in Japan.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm going to bring you a pair tomorrow. He says, don't jerk me off, man. So, so I brought them in the next day, gave him his sneakers, and he seemed excited about it. He put them right on
Yeah.
to try them on. And so between those 2 things, we got along just fine. Giving him the sneakers and having this mutual friend. Miles and I we were good buddies right away.
That's fantastic. So it's interesting to me because I have this, I brand myself now as a consultant in the business as the connector, because the biggest thing that I have is I know all these people and I can make introductions and stuff. And the 2 stories you've just told me have been about just you happen to know somebody who happened to help you get to that next level. Does that kind of stuff continue to happen for you? Has it continued all along?
Always, I'm a practitioner of being in the moment and living for right now. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when those kind of things happen. Not if you're thinking of tomorrow or next year and, what am I going to be doing tomorrow? Or what did I do yesterday? Those things, you miss those things.
Yeah.
You miss your life.
Yeah.
So lots of stuff happens to me that way because if you're not present, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. No, it's really true. I have learned over the years, I wish I had learned it when I was 20, but that the past is just a movie. The past is just a memory and the future is just a movie. The only thing that's real is like right here, right this second. And to your point, just not to beat a dead horse, but the way that you and I met, if I had not been there speaking to Jack Douglas and you hadn't walked over to say hello to him, we wouldn't have met. We wouldn't have gotten to do a wonderful project with Lea Salonga together. And bigger than that, a friendship that we've had for 15 years. And I do have to tell you, too, that I love the fact that even though we don't talk for a year or however long, we're able to pick back up where we were.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you another quick story about this idea of being present. When I was first coming up, I was doing jingles, mostly at A&R, when I worked at A&R after Don Elliott's studio. And a lot of the engineers there were of the mindset that when they got into doing records, then it was going to be fun.
Yeah.
But for me, when I was doing jingles, I was into it. You know, I not that I was conscious of being present back then, but when I look back on it, I see that I was present. So if I only had a minute to get a drum sound doing one of these agency jingle jobs, which is about what the amount of time that I would have.
Yeah.
If I complained or if I was thinking of something else, 15 seconds would go by. Now I've only got 45 seconds to get a drum sound. So, but my point was that I was into it, and you know, I was focused on what I was there for, what my objective was. So, which was to get the sounds as quickly as possible. So what happened was, after I started doing records and started working with Jack Douglas, who used to be my assistant doing those jingles.
Wow.
He got an opportunity to produce Aerosmith, as a matter of fact.
Uh-huh.
And so what he noticed about me was how fast I could get sounds and edit and all of the things that I learned from doing jingles and being present for doing those kind of jobs. So, you know, it paid off, and it was something that I noticed after looking back on it. You know, I became good at all of those things from being present when it was just, you know, I was just doing jingles, and lots of people were complaining about that.
Yeah.
I didn't complain. I loved what I was doing.
It's such a great lesson. I mean, it's a great life lesson too. But I'm curious about this. So, with all of the distractions, like in jingle studios and in recording studios, where you got the band, you got the manager. In the jingle studios, you got the agency guy, you got the client. Sometimes you got all this stuff going on. How were you able to just kind of be in that, but not of that, if you will?
Well, what really comes to mind when you talk about distractions and things going on in the room is when we were doing a Aerosmith record in Joe Perry's studio. I was making edits, and you know, the whole band was there and friends and all these people, and you know, you just learn to tune that out. You know, there was and also, you know, doing the jingles. There's always 8 or 10 agency people in the room yakking and talking too loud, and you just get to tune that out. You know, you would think that if you turn the monitor knob up, it would give them the hint to be quiet. But what I found is when you turn the monitor up, they would just talk louder. So I gave up on that idea.
I wonder what would have happened if you turned it down.
I never thought of that.
So tell me what projects you're doing now. Are you doing some things that are, well, I know they're fun because you've already told me that you enjoy everything that you're doing. So I'm going to let you continue that with us.
Yeah, well, I'm mixing a record right now for a band called Zebra with Jack Douglas.
Uh-huh.
that he's producing. We're doing 5 songs. When we finish that, Robin Zander from Cheap Trick
Oh, yeah.
has a very talented son,
Yes.
also Robin. We're going to mix some more of his album that Jack is also producing. And then I'm also working on a Japanese singer, piano player, 2 Japanese artists. That one of them is in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going back and forth that way. She sends me the files. I send her an MP3, a mix. She'll give me her comments on it. I'll make a change or 2 if necessary, until we get a good one. Until I tell her, you tell me when you love it, then I'm done, and we move on to the next song.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another artist, Japanese artist, who writes for big bands. And we're going in the studio beginning of July with 5 or 6 saxophones.
Wow.
She's going to play piano and sing.
That's fantastic.
Some really good players, too.
That is great. Well, man, so people can find you at your website, jaymessina.com, right?
Yep.
And I just so appreciate you being on here with me. Let me ask you one other thing. So if you had advice for somebody wanting to be in the business, either an engineer or a producer or an artist or anything, is there any sort of global advice you could share with somebody?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because just 2 or 3 days ago, a young man came by. We have a mutual friend, and he's in that very position. And I started the conversation by saying, "What is your dream job? What would you like to do?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Well, my goal is to be a producer, and he says, that'll be maybe 20 years from now." I said, "Forget that." I said, "Think about today. What do you want to be doing today?" So we talked about that a bit, and it's all about being present. That's really so important.
Yeah.
And that's when things happen for you, like we talked about.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, Jay, God bless you, man. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and for sharing this moment right here.
Great to see you, buddy. I miss you. You'll have to let me know when you're up in my neck of the woods next time. We'll have breakfast or something.
I definitely will, and I will look forward to it. Well, my brother, thank you so much. And keep
Okay,
doing what
thank
you're
you.
doing. Talk soon.
All right.
Woo! That was so great. I'm so glad that I was able to get Jay Messina on here today. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please don't forget to visit his website, Jay Messina, JayMessina.com. You'll see all the artists he's worked with. You'll get to hear some music that he's done before and see some great photographs of him and some of those artists. It's really, really cool. Okay, so I can't leave without doing 2 things. One, tell a couple of stories. And then, of course, I'm going to, make a sales pitch. Of course. I mean, it's what I do. So, want to talk a little bit about things that moms say. Things that moms say. Now, I also want to invite you, if you've got something that your mother used to say to you, please, in the comments on YouTube, be sure to type them in there so I can maybe steal them from you and use them on another episode. But anyway, my mother, who was really a dear lady, but every now and then we would push all of her buttons and it would just go wacko. So one of the things that she would say if we really got on her nerves was, "I am going to jerk a knot in you. I'm going to jerk a knot in you." I mean, that's scary to like a 4 or 5 year old. But when you get to be about 7 or 8 or 9, you're like, the hell does that mean? Of course, she never said that to Mom. Here's another one. I'm going to slap you in the next week. Now, that's time travel. I mean, that's really the space and time continuum right there. Mom was really smart if she knew how to do that. Okay, and this is one, when your mom would say she's going to give you a whipping. Okay, that's one level. Second level would be a whooping, sometimes an ass whooping. So the difference between whipping and whooping, that's one level up. But then my friend David Hicks, when I played in the Band of Oz, he said, oh no, there's a third level too. And I'm like, what do you mean? There's whipping and there's whooping? He said, no, there's whopping. Because he said, my daddy used to give us an ass whopping when we would talk back to my mom. So anyway, those are three things that I think about all the time. Well, not all the time when I think about my mother. That's the wrong thing to say. But I loved my mom very much, but I also loved some of the funny things that she said. Okay, 2 more things, and I'm out of here. But I'm so glad you're here. I want to remind you that you can see me anytime you want on Instagram at Chris J. Keaton. You can follow me on Facebook at Chris Keaton Music. You can follow me on YouTube. You can watch all of the episodes of Random Acts and some other funny stuff that I've put up there. And that is youtube.com Chris Keaton Random Acts, at Chris Keaton Random Acts. So be sure to check that out. Okay. Also, you can buy my books, Dapper. It's a guide for gentlemen and ladies who love them. And another book that I wrote that I know nothing about the subject. It's called Confidence on the Fly. So please pick those up and come back next week, next month, or whatever you like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And please don't forget to like or dislike the episode. I'm Chris Keaton. This is Random Acts. Thank you. I'm going to slap you in the next week.